My god, this scene at the end of the episode.
Okabe.
It hit me right in the chest, especially when you know for a fact that this ties in with the events of the original Steins Gate, which just blows my mind. I knew that this episode was going to be sad. Like, it was very apparent, because, I mean, the entirety of Steins Gate Zero is where Okabe, he has lost Kurisu. He has given up on having Kurisu live in his beta world line. And seeing her back at the end of last week's episode, we knew full and well that this was going to be probably a heavy episode, and that's exactly what it was. I'm not gonna lie, I cried while watching this episode, but at the same time, I'm glad the series did that to me, because that lets me know that I really am emotionally connected to these characters. I mean, I love Steins Gate. I've also been playing the visual novel recently. I'm not past the anime, do not worry. But I mean, I have been reading the visual novel, and there's some few details that are explained that the anime hasn't covered. But I mean, just playing the visual novel, recently rewatching Steins Gate the original, and then, now seeing Steins Gate Zero, just, I am emotionally invested in these characters. And when you see that scene to where Okabe is just sitting at the grave of Mayuri, and he's just, sad. Like, you just see by the way the image is done, like, the way the artists that worked on that scene, the way they depicted it, it was just extremely depressing. Just seeing how Kurisu explained that this man just looked like he was waiting for someone to come down and just take him to heaven, basically saying he just wanted to die. He wanted to be done with the world. That's what Kurisu was saying, just describing Okabe's, demeanor, how he was acting at that moment. And it was just like, yo, I mean, we got to see a different side to Okabe, and kind of how he probably reacted to Kurisu's death as well, soon as she died. Because remember, the equivalent of what was going on in this episode was kind of like a, what if Okabe gave up on Mayuri, didn't try to save her? That's kind of what this episode was about. So, what we've been going through with Okabe basically giving up on Kurisu, imagine all of those events that happened, but instead just shifted over from Kurisu over to Mayuri, and that's what happened in this episode. And so everything we got to see that Okabe was going through and all of that was basically the equivalent of what he did when Kurisu died. So that's just truly the sad part about this episode. But then, after getting a little bit more context, it just really hits you that this man, he had to really make a critical choice. He had to choose between Mayuri or Kurisu, and to this day it haunts him. And no matter which side he would have chose, if he would have chose to say Mayuri, he still would have lived with guilt because of Mayuri, his childhood friend. So no matter which way he went, if he would have let Kurisu die or if he would have let Mayuri die, he would have been extremely unhappy, and he would have been a depressed individual and given up on Hoin Kyoma. He would no longer be that person. So that's kind of what this episode was trying to show, that no matter what decision he made, who he wanted to live, he was still going to wind up pretty much in the exact same position and regretting his decisions or wanting to know what he could do differently. So it's just truly sad. All around, it is just a sad experience for our MC, and he went through a lot in this episode and got to see from a different perspective of what another Kyoma has been going through throughout the story of the Alpha World Line. Now, speaking of the Alpha World Line, I do want to take a moment just to discuss Kurisu as a character. She is my favorite female character of Steins Gate for obvious reasons. I mean, I love her personality, I love her interactions with, Kyoma, and seeing the ending of Steins Gate, the OG series, and then seeing the movie and OVA and all that, I've always loved Kurisu. She's a great character. I know many don't like the tsundere type characters, but I personally enjoy her. I like her quite a bit, and so seeing the way she was in this episode, it rekindled my love for her as a character, and seeing how she was able to pick up on very crucial details of how Okabe was, acting in the Alpha World Line, it made me respect her as a character. It also made me respect the writer of this series case of all of the writers, because here's the thing. Normally, in this situation, when you have a character shift over to a different world line, or he's resetting, whatever, some characters typically, they know that, something is off. Like, let's think about ReZero for a second, okay? I love ReZero. It's one of my favorite series in recent anime and recent times. It's one of my favorites. I love ReZero. But even then, it annoys the hell out of me that the characters can't pick up on something, that something is definitely wrong. They know something is wrong, but they can't piece things together to realize that the man can't talk about certain things, and then they start blaming him and stuff. And the only one that really came to that conclusion that, he couldn't talk about certain things was Rim, which I'm not going to get into that. But basically, even ReZero had a problem to where certain characters just couldn't pick up on things, even though they were obviously intelligent enough to figure something out. And because of that, it makes me respect Kurisu as a character and the writers of Steins Gate for allowing her to understand that Okabe, he was a time traveler in that moment. He was not the standard Okabe that was in the Alpha world line. He was an Okabe from a different world line to where Mayuri lived because of the way he was interacting in the episode. Like you can see, as soon as their first exchange, when he hugs Kurisu, Kurisu knew that something was off. She automatically knew because he obviously has been acting very differently, and just the way he just straight up hugged her and acted like he didn't see her for a very long time, which he didn't, from according to what she said in this episode, it was still very weird, probably for his character, especially when he's given up on his Hoenn Kyoma. She knows that for a fact, that he's kind of let go of that name. She's a very intelligent character, and she would be fully aware of what's going on in his mind. I mean, she's a scientist as well, and even made a freaking time machine, so she's not that dumb by any means. So, I mean, she obviously knew something was wrong in that moment. Just the way he interacted, and then some of the dialogue he was saying, like, for instance, just not really talking about Mayuri at all, but then she had to bring it up. It just showed from that exchange that there was something off. She had her warning signs. And then finally, when Daru started talking to Kurisu about certain things, about what he did in, the cafe, she then knew that he was from the Beta World line. And I just like how she was able to understand that this was not the same Kyoma, and she was able to discuss with him, like, what is his options. And even though she doesn't have the full picture, she doesn't know what Okabe has been through in the Beta World line, she doesn't know what he's experienced. At the very least, she does know that at the end, before she makes that decision to send that text, she kind of understands that what he was going through was something very similar. For instance, him basically going through life without her. And she did find out about this, that basically she was dead. And that's the reason why she says, I want you to forget about me. And that's a very powerful scene, because she knows for a fact whatever she says, like, when he goes back to that world line, she won't be there. So, in that moment, she got all of her feelings out of the way to make Kyoma. She didn't intentionally want to make him sad. It probably is going to make it a lot worse, because the way she kissed him, it kind of rekindles those feelings he had before he tried to save Kurisu. And I know she probably didn't intentionally do that. There's by no means. Her dialogue, she just wanted to comfort the man and let him know, look, I know I'm dead. I know myself in the Beta World line, and everybody in the Beta World line might not know what really happened or ever really know anything about what you went through, but I want you to know that I understand. Like, me in this world line, I understand. Since technically we're all the same people, and all that, it's like, I understand. Do not feel guilty. I want you to forget about me. I want you to move on. That's kind of what she was implying. I don't want you to sit there and suffer for your entire life and just be dragged down by your guilt of letting me die. That's kind of what she was trying to say. And that right there just shows how much Kurisu loves Okabe, how she will go that far to say something like that, and that just, it's powerful. It's a very powerful scene, and that's why I love Steins Gate in the first place, just the way certain scenes like this can be depicted. And just once again, the new director for Steins Gate Zero has done a fantastic job with carrying on the legacy of the previous team that worked on Steins Gate. But okay, so with all that out of the way though, let's talk about what exactly happened towards the end. So, the reason why I like this episode so much is because it actually gives more info on what happened in the original Steins game. See, when CERN's messages and stuff were all deleted, and Okabe was going in to save Kurisu and stuff, like he was about to go back into the beta timeline and try to save Kurisu, now we understand from a different point of view of how that happened in the first place. See, basically, what's different about this timeline that he was in compared to the one we got in Steins Gate, where, Okabe, he managed to save Kurisu, save Mayuri and all that, or the one that, let Kurisu die? Basically, the difference here is the fact that Kurisu had to send herself a message just to be able to not stop Kyoma from going back in the past to let her die. That's kind of what happened there. So, the events at the end of Steins Gate, Kurisu technically is the reason to why Kyoma, went back to the beta timeline. For instance, if it wasn't for her sending that email saying don't come in, Kyoma would have never have went to the beta world line. He would have stuck there because he just couldn't do it, and he couldn't go any further. It's because of her coming in, announcing her love and all that, that he would just give up and he wouldn't know what to do. So that is a very important event, a part of the series, and it expands upon the original content of Steins Gate, which, like I said, I respect that. And, you'd think a series that is kind of like a prequel sequel type thing, it's in between, that it would mess up badly. I've seen so many anime that is a sequel or a prequel or in between or whatever, trying to offer more information, and usually it's done so bad. Oh my god, it's done bad. I've seen so many countless series that are just absolutely amazing, but their sequels or something just completely destroy the series. And that's what I respect about Steins Gate. It actually manages to tell a new story from a different perspective while expanding on the original and not tampering with the information. That's what this episode was. So just job well done, Steins Gate, for always being consistent and always having some really good character development and characterization. And it does not conflict with the previous events that were established from the OG series. But okay. Anyways, I do like, in a couple of scenes throughout this episode, I like the eye shift scene, where his eyes start shifting real quickly, Okabe's and all that. I don't know if I'll probably show an animation clip of it, but you know what scene I'm probably talking about if you watch the episode. His eyes shift back and forth and all that, and it's a very jarring scene just to show how paranoid or upset he is in that moment, not really knowing what to do, and that was an incredible scene, animation-wise. I was really taken aback by the way that was done. And then, on top of that as well, I do also like the kiss scene. It really hits you because you're like, this is technically the OG couple, and we do know in another timeline we could take, I guess, pleasure in the fact that in another world line, in the Steins Gate world line, they will be together. But at the same time, this Okabe that we are, currently watching, he's probably never going to be happy. He's never going to be able to end up with Kurisu. That's just the cold, hard truth. Basically, as I've been saying since the very beginning, and it's not a spoiler because it's already kind of obvious because of the events of Steins Gate, this Okabe is never going to be happy. He's going to be the one that has to probably send back the video message to Okabe, which actually goes to Steins Gate's world line. So he's never going to get to be happy, which just is really upsetting because, you want this man to be happy, and in a way he does become happy in another timeline, but he will never be happy this one we're following, and it's just a sad story. It's just this man's gonna have a really sad ending, and this is probably the last time he's gonna probably be able to kiss Kurisu and actually be happy or ever see her again. Yes, he has AI Kurisu, but once again, it's not the same person, and even, Kurisu states that. Which, let's get into that. That's the last detail I will cover before I end this video. So, if there's one thing that we now understand about when it comes to AI Kurisu, the evidence or the info of time travel is still there, present in the beta world line. That is something that was established with this episode. See, Kurisu at the time, she was already working on the theory of time travel when she had, her AI created, the AI Kurisu. She already had the theory of time travel created, and the only reason why time travel, the theory and all that, got progression, why it progressed to the point it did in the Alpha World line, is because of her interaction with Okabe. And technically, in the Beta World line, time travel doesn't really exist. There's not really a big problem with that anymore. But the thing is with Okabe interacting with AI Kurisu, it makes it to where she might start progressing a time-traveling fury or something. And that's the danger of him interacting with her, and that's what Kurisu is trying to warn Okabe about. It's look, if you continue to interact with AI Kurisu or something with certain events, most likely she might create a time machine or present a theory that can make a time machine and cause problems, which could have resulted in him traveling to the Alpha World line. But personally, what I think is going on, I don't really think it's AI Kurisu that caused it. I think it has something to do with Mr. Braun, FB, because with him talking to FB and Mr. Braun, there might have been a reason, or someone might have overheard, or Moeka or whatever, might have told CERN about time travel, which shifted him back over. That's my personal opinion on what's going on. I could be wrong there, but that's what I think is going on. I don't think it has anything tied to AI Kurisu, unless I'm wrong. Unless it's Kaguri. Kaguri could be a part of it too. But that's pretty much about it when it comes to this week's episode of Steins Gate. I do want to apologize for the delay in this episode review. I know you guys probably wanted to see it yesterday, but once again, there's just been a lot of catch up. I've been having to catch up to a lot of series, and I think with this video, I'm officially caught up with anime that has released so far, besides Megalobox, which will come out later today. So, once again, I apologize, and hopefully now I can officially be back on track and on schedule with my reviews. But I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe, stay healthy. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. Chibi out.